Right now, we have a 2025 Denver Broncos 3-round mock draft. Yes, you heard that correctly. 2025. Look, there's a lot of teams in the NFL projected towards the bottom of the Super Bowl odds. We're taking a look ahead for some of these teams at what the future could look like beyond 2025. These teams are usually franchises that don't have big expectations for the upcoming year. Obviously, you want to see growth from your young players, development, but a lot of the fans of teams at the bottom of the Super Bowl odds probably want to look ahead as well. So that's what we're doing here today with the Denver Broncos. Already looked at the New England Patriots, who are projected to have the second overall pick, Panthers, who are projected to have the first overall pick. You can go check those videos out. But right now, the Broncos, according to Super Bowl odds, projected to have the third overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Going into the 2024 season, it's Sean Payton's second year with the Broncos. They drafted Bo Nix. Look, a lot of folks didn't think he should be a first-round pick. I was not one of them. I did think Bo Nix should be a first-rounder. I know he's an older prospect. I know he had some struggles at Auburn. But I'm a big fan of his game. He is smart. He does well under pressure. I think he can get the ball anywhere you want it on the field. Does he have the biggest arm on the planet? No. He does not have the strongest arm in the NFL. But does he have good arm strength? I absolutely think he does. He is really efficient on the move. He is creative in pressure-packed situations. He's able to avoid pressure. He's a very good athlete. He can throw from different arm angles and platforms. I think what he has done in college, what he did at Oregon, will prepare him to execute an on-time offense. And that's exactly what Sean Payton's going to want from his young quarterback. He's going to want him to be on time, make good decisions, and be accurate with the football. Bo Nix has shown he can do all of those things. He's also shown that when the play breaks down, he's got a little bit of playmaker in him. He can run around, make plays with his legs and with his arm, off platform, off script. So I am a fan of Bo Nix. Do I think that he's going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL soon? Maybe not. Probably not. But do I think he's going to be a good starter that can execute an offense? Yeah, I think that could happen for Bo Nix with Sean Payton sooner rather than later. I love that they went and brought in Troy Franklin as well. I know that Troy Franklin has some question marks about his game, but he is a speed demon, and I think he's an underrated route runner. I think he's a player that the NFL draft process kind of didn't do any favors for, right? I think that you saw the fact that he came in super light, and then the fact that he didn't look really coordinated in the gauntlet, we'll say, very confident in the gauntlet at the combine. There were some issues stacking up against Troy Franklin, but you pop on the tape, this is a good route runner who's extremely explosive with good length. So I think Troy Franklin having that connection with Bo Nix is a big positive. I love them bringing him in. Kudos for getting Quinn Miners paid just now. You've got two good tackles as well. So you have three really good offensive linemen. I think you could maybe upgrade center, maybe upgrade left guard for the future as well. I still think you could add more pass game building blocks. Like, yes, Cortland Sutton is still there. Tim Patrick is still there. But how long are they going to be in Denver? I'm not sure. The Broncos, if they wanted to, could cut Cortland Sutton today, save a ton of money. I'm not saying they will. I'm just saying I don't think that Cortland Sutton is long for the Broncos. I think maybe he plays this season out, then they decide to move on, save some cap space moving forward. We'll see how it plays out. I still think Cortland Sutton can be an effective NFL receiver. Tim Patrick has dealt with a lot of injuries, obviously. I think that you could add more pass game building blocks. I do. I think they will run the ball well with Javonte Williams and the rest of the backs they have. They obviously added Audric Estime and Blake Watson in the draft. So I think that Jaleel McLaughlin can also play. Defensively, plenty of solid pieces. Obviously, I think you have maybe the best cornerback in the league, Pat Surtain II. I like the defensive front overall. I think it's good, not great. I like Baron Browning a lot. I like Jonathan Cooper. I was a big fan of both of those guys in the draft. You bring in Jonah Ellis as well. You've got a couple other depth guys that have potential as edge rushers. I think that bringing in John Franklin Myers was great. Zach Allen is a stout football player as well. DJ Jones is in there in the middle on the defensive line. At safety, Brandon Jones is a very good safety. I think PJ Locke can play. He's going to compete for reps potentially, or certainly here in 2024. I think landing Chris Abrams-Drain where they did could be the steal of the draft straight up. Like, Chris Abrams-Drain, I thought should have been a second-round pick. They were able to land him much later than that on day 3 of the draft. This is a guy who plays physically. He is a good athlete. He has good length at the position, especially proportional length. And I think that he has the hip fluidity and flexibility and quickness to play in the nickel, play outside. I don't think it really matters. I think Chris Abrams-Drain is going to be a really good player for the Broncos. I liked that pick a lot for them, pairing him up with, obviously, you have McMillian and, again, Pat Surtain on the outside. I don't think this is a bottom 3 team. Probably more like closer to around 10 in the NFL draft for 2025, in my opinion. But current Super Bowl odds, that's what we're basing this off of right now. So we're starting with the 3rd overall pick for the Denver Broncos, running this mock draft over on NFL Mock Draft Database. I love the user experience over there, user interface as well. So Denver Broncos starting with the 3rd overall pick. Is this a spot where the Broncos could trade down? I think it absolutely is. I think there are several teams that could potentially be interested in trading up to land a quarterback of the future. One of those teams I mentioned was the Raiders. I had them trading with the Panthers. I don't think that the Raiders and Broncos are going to be engaging in a trade at the top of the draft, being 2 division rivals, right? But could the New York Giants, after this season, decide, it's really time to move on from Daniel Jones? We need to get our quarterback of the future. It's not going to cost a ton to move up to 3, but it's going to guarantee us that we're able to get our guy. I think that potential scenario could play out. I like that for the Broncos and the Giants. So the Broncos move down to 6 overall in this scenario. They land 38 and 102. 38 in the second round, 102, which would be moved down a little bit after the compensatory picks, but it would be an early 4th round pick. So you're sitting there at 6. This selection, I don't know if it's going to be popular among Broncos fans, among NFL fans right now. But Malachi Starks, the safety out of Georgia, is the number 1 prospect on my board. And I think he has every bit of potential and even more potential to be a dominant safety than Kyle Hamilton did just a couple years ago. And I loved Kyle Hamilton. I loved his tape, loved his mindset, his physicality. I think Malachi Starks has everything you could want in a modern safety. He can absolutely fly downhill and hit. He can run. I think he can play single high. I think he can play 2 high. I think he can play in the box. He's going to be a plus run defender and run support. He's going to be a great coverage player. He has tremendous instincts, ball skills, everything you could want from a modern safety Malachi Starks has. And now you're talking about having a potentially dominant secondary for the long haul. Again, Patrick Surtain, Malachi Starks. I think Chris Abrams-Drain is going to be a starter. You have McMillian as well in the slot. I think you're starting to build what could be, and then Brandon Jones as well, what could be one of the best secondaries in football if you bring in a player like Malachi Starks. And you're also able to add a 2nd round pick and a 4th round pick by trading down to 6. I would love this for the Denver Broncos. Again, Malachi Starks is the number 1 prospect on my board right now. Then at 35, this edge class is interesting. There's some guys that have already come off the board that you would have liked to seen fall to 35 potentially. And I don't think that edge is like this massive need for the Broncos right now. But Jonathan Cooper, I think you could be looking at him as, are we going to give him a long-term deal? What are we going to do there? JT Tuimoloau. I think he fits more in the defensive end, versatile, move around the front type of guy in this defense versus a true edge outside linebacker type, right? He is a big edge out of Ohio State. And a lot of people thought he would enter the draft this year. I'm glad he went back to Ohio State because he does have some refinement to work on. He's an extremely young player. I think he's going to be 21 this year. So a guy that, again, if you're able to harness the raw traits, the flashes that you see on tape from a JT Tuimoloau, you could be potentially unlocking a wrecking ball on the edge. A guy that can set the edge, a guy that has the physical attributes, the flexibility at his size to become a Cameron Jordan type player in that type of mold, in my opinion. I think is what you could see from JT Tuimoloau if he hits. He's got a long way to go. But, Sean Payton, very familiar with this type of big defensive end edge player. I think that could be a good fit for the Denver Broncos. At 38, I've mentioned I want to add to the pass catching room. I think Evan Stewart out of Oregon, who did not play with Bo Nix at Oregon, transferred over there this year, but a player who, former incredibly highly rated prospect, a recruit coming out of high school, and a guy that you've seen the flashes. He has all the physical ability in the world. Not the biggest receiver out there, but a guy who I think if you get him in a Sean Payton offense, Sean Payton can figure out how to get him the football in creative ways. I think he's going to be a dynamic route runner. I think he's going to be a guy that can win at the catch point as well. I think Evan Stewart has the potential to be a number one receiver in the NFL. He's got to show a little bit more in a better offense, what should be a better offense at Oregon than what he's been dealing with so far in his college career. But I think it's going to be a good move for him playing with Tez Johnson and the rest of those guys out there at Oregon. And I think that this could be a good fit for the Denver Broncos at 38 overall to add another pass catching weapon to the mix. And I've also mentioned, I'd like to upgrade guard. I think Tate Ratledge out of Georgia makes a lot of sense. This is a guy that just does not allow pressure at all. Very stout, very physical. I think Tate Ratledge could be a really good fit at 67 overall for the Denver Broncos. So, you've fortified your trenches a little bit more with a couple of these picks. You've added a receiving weapon for Bo Nix, and most importantly, you have added a blue chip player, a player that can massively change the Broncos' defensive outlook in the short and long term. And now you're talking about having two elite players in your secondary, in Surtain and Starks. I would love to see this for the Denver Broncos. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, NFL draft fan, let me know what you think about the takes in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.